everyone. So I just wanted to quickly say before I start, this is really scary for me. I've not really done anything like this before. I talk a lot about mental health and about my experiences, but it is still a really difficult thing for me to talk about. I'm still going through my recovery, so I'd appreciate if people were just sensitive. Was the fact that this is quite tricky, but I do really want to be able to help people. Because I know if I'd had someone who I could talk to maybe when I was a little bit younger, I maybe would have found it a little bit easier to cope. So yeah, I'm really just hoping this can help anyone, even in the slightest or smallest way. Please remember that also I'm not a therapist. These are my opinions and my experiences. I don't have all the answers, but yeah, I'm just gonna talk through some questions that you guys have asked and see if I can give a little bit of advice. So yeah, let's get started. So I feel like this is a good question to start off with. So someone asked, what is my journey? What has my journey been? Again, I'm gonna keep this quite brief because I think I've been through a lot. And I think that sometimes revealing a lot of stuff isn't always helpful for people. I don't want to give anyone going through similar situations ideas, or I in no way want to kind of trigger people. So I'm just gonna keep it quite brief. And then if anybody watching this has any more questions or wants to ask me specifically about things, I'm more than happy to answer questions on my Instagram, or people can comment on this video, and I'll try and answer as many questions as I can. So essentially, I went off to boarding school when I was 11. This was difficult for me. I have such a close family, and I've always been a home person. I've loved home, I've loved my family. So going off to boarding school was really difficult for me. And I think when I arrived and I saw what I thought was everyone having an amazing time and everyone absolutely loving it, I found it quite difficult because I thought it was weird that I was kind of maybe not enjoying myself as much or not having as much fun and maybe didn't make friends as quickly as everyone else. So I kind of buried all these feelings and all my emotions for a couple of years, and it got to fifth form when I started feeling rubbish. I went through days, and I mean I'm not talking a week. I mean, it's possible, like it is really normal for people to have bad days and bad weeks. It is difficult to know, but I was kind of really not enjoying life, not enjoying school. I was really miserable. I was kind of calling out my parents a lot, thinking I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to be in school, I don't want to be around people. I hated socialising, I hated social activities. It was a really difficult time for me. So my parents thought that it would be a good idea for me to get some help. So I went to see a doctor, who then referred me to a private mental health hospital, where I saw a therapist. I went on antidepressants. So I had really bad anxiety and depression for a couple of years. This included some really unhelpful behaviours. Like I had periods of really difficult depression where I kind of wouldn't really get out of bed. I missed a little bit of school. I was self-harming. I was in a really difficult place. I then became a day girl at boarding school, which was hard enough because I don't live that close. So I do a 40-minute car journey in the morning and in the evenings. This definitely helped me ground myself a little bit. It was easier not to be around kind of a toxic and pressurizing environment all the time. I needed that for work. Like that environment really made me thrive in some aspects, but I needed to turn off from it and I needed to stop. So yeah, definitely becoming a day girl was helpful. I then, in upper sixth, developed an eating disorder. I just stopped eating, if I'm honest. But that was just my way of coping with the stresses of school life and A-levels. That's just how I coped. And it was difficult because a lot of people said to me kind of, what's going on, are you okay? I thought I was absolutely fine. I mean, obviously I knew deep down I wasn't. Then after I left school in the summer holidays, after I'd left, I had to go into a hospital for 5 weeks, and then I went to uni. So that's kind of been my journey so far. So someone very kindly wrote, how do you stay so positive and deal with difficult situations? That was very sweet, thank you. It's nice to know that some people think I'm positive. My personality is outgoing. Like, I like to crack jokes. I like to be kind of the clown. I like messing around, trying to be positive, but it's very difficult. Behind closed doors, I'm quite an inwardly emotional person. I do cry. I won't deny that. But I kind of feel my worst on my own. I don't really show many people that. Only people I really, really trust have seen me kind of break down. So yeah, I'm not always positive. I do deal with stuff on my own. I just try. I've had a lot of practice of spinning situations, thinking about situations in different lights, challenging beliefs and thoughts. So I am finding it a lot easier to kind of change my perspective. I like to be in control of everything, and I like everything to be going well and nice. So I do try to just reinforce and tell myself that I can't always control everything. And that is one belief that helps me stay positive. Sometimes you just can't control what life throws at you, so you kind of just have to dust yourself off and do the best you can in the situation. So my next question was, what is your go-to coping method for when you're feeling rubbish? So this is a really good one. It kind of depends what state I'm in. If I'm in severe panic or severe depression, there are certain coping techniques that my therapist has given me. But I think that's very individual, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I think that's for a professional to tell you, and it takes a lot of work to know what works for you and what doesn't, so I won't go much into like detail about that. But I love my artwork. I love anything creative, anything artsy. So that is definitely my go-to. If I'm feeling rubbish, doodling, colouring, painting, anything like that, that immediately makes me feel so much better. Or just sitting in front of the TV, having a nap, like allowing myself to feel rubbish, making a cup of coffee, sitting on the sofa, chatting to my mum. Just little things that kind of I can do to boost my mood. Okay, so my next questions were really important, and I'm kind of going to combine two questions. So the first question was, how do you know when it might be time to start seeing a professional? So this is difficult. Sometimes you just know, and sometimes you're pushed by other people. I definitely couldn't really see the wood from the trees when I first started feeling depressed and anxious. I didn't know what was going on with my body. I didn't know how to control myself. I was feeling really difficult emotions that I'd never felt before. So luckily I have really supportive parents, really supportive family, really supportive friends, and a lot of people were kind of saying, okay, now is the time, I think you need a little bit more support. And I found that really helpful. I found that that really helped me, because I didn't know when it was time to see a professional, if I'm completely honest. I think there's a difference between having a bad week and being depressed. I think it's really difficult in this day and age with social media, words like depressed, feeling depressed, and oh, I'm so OCD. These words are thrown around a lot. Having like a fit of depression, it's very difficult to come back from. I've had days where I kind of have not talked to anyone, not got out of bed. It's really difficult to manage. But then again, I would also say, if you're struggling and you're kind of feeling new emotions and you want advice, please go to the doctor, please seek help, like ask your parents, ask friends. you've just got to investigate. Kind of no one can know apart from you what you're feeling and how, I guess, how you can support yourself. So it's really important to talk to people. And this kind of leads on to a second question I got asked, which is, how do you know when a therapist is wrong for you? So this is really important, really, really important. When I first started therapy, I had a lady who was completely wrong for me. I needed answers, I needed constructive things I could do to get rid of this feeling. So I spoke to my mum. If after 3 or 4 sessions you are still not talking and you're still not trusting who you're with, you need to change. Because a lot can change. You think, oh, maybe 3 sessions isn't a lot, but a lot can change in kind of 3 sessions. I then moved on to a second woman who was really brilliant at helping me with my depression and my anxiety. But then as I started to, something was still not quite right. And this is kind of when I developed my eating disorder in sixth form. And I was with her for a bit. She didn't deal with eating disorders at all. So linking my eating and my depression, even that link, I felt that she couldn't help me because she could help with one side but not the other. So then I moved again. And luckily I found someone who I still have to this day who is absolutely amazing. I click with her so well. I trust her so much. I promise you will find someone who you really click with. It doesn't matter how many times you have to change, you need to have the right person for therapy to be able to work. Okay, so this was quite a good question, I feel, for kind of some younger people who are going to be watching this, who are at boarding school, or who are still at school. I got a question: how do I feel like my issues were dealt with at school? Were they helped or hindered? And what could have been done better? Because obviously there were a lot of differences between home and school. So I found it really difficult. I didn't know what I was feeling. This was very a new territory for me. I felt odd, I felt different, I felt lonely even when I had all my friends around me. It was really difficult. I didn't know why I felt the way I did. And I'm quite a pragmatic person, and I like to have answers. And suddenly entering a world where it takes time to recover and you don't just snap your fingers and do this, this and this and you're better. That's not how it works. And that was something that was really difficult for me to come to terms with. I think although you don't want people to know, there's a part of you that wants to keep it secret because you're ashamed of it. I had a lot of behaviours that were outwardly expressing. I knew I needed help. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to talk to people, so I used behaviours to show people how I was feeling. That kind of was how I coped. So I had a lot of interventions from school. School were very hot on kind of what I was doing to myself and how I was harmful to myself and maybe others around me. I was only quite young. I mean, I'm saying 15 and 16 is young, but I think in the grand scheme of things that is really young. To be going through stuff that's that difficult, it's hard, it's really hard. I found some teachers better than others. Some teachers I trusted a lot more than others. You have to find the right people who you trust, and it's really difficult at boarding school. I completely get that because it's a hard environment, and there are kind of certain school rules. They have to protect you because they are looking after you while you're at school. Your behaviours and stuff that you do that maybe would be dealt with differently at home, I guess it has to be dealt with a lot more seriously at school. So I did take a lot of time off school. I would say that some teachers helped, some teachers really hindered me, some teachers just didn't understand, and I think that was really good for me to learn because a lot of people don't understand. I'm now started uni, I've just finished my first year. And some people have never encountered other people with mental health issues, so they have no idea what it's like to be around someone with an eating disorder or to be around someone who's depressed. So it was quite a helpful lesson for me to learn. It was hard at the time, but reflecting back on it, it was helpful to kind of learn that not everyone is going to be sympathetic to it and not everyone is going to understand. Okay, the next question, I'm sticking to uni here. How has it been managing mental health at uni? Is it more difficult than school? So this is a hard one. I came out 3 weeks before I started university and I'd been in for 5 weeks. So that was definitely difficult. And kind of starting uni, terrified. I was still very much in recovery, really vulnerable. And I didn't tell anyone anything for a long time. The first time I didn't tell anyone anything, and I made a lot of really good friends. And I slowly started to trust people and get to know people like I had done at school. I'm the type of person who really does need positive people around them. And I knew that sharing with people would help me so that when I was struggling I could go to 1 or 2 people who knew kind of what I was suffering through and what I was going through, and I could just kind of sit with them, watch movies, chill, and they didn't ask questions, they would just sit with me and tell me that it was okay to feel the way I felt, and that is really helpful for me. That is kind of what I need to be around, that kind of positive energy. Well, some aspects are hard, obviously. I think the eating side is difficult at uni because I was being watched over a lot at school and that kind of meant I couldn't fall into unhelpful habits. But I'd say in terms of anxiety and depression, I can breathe a lot more at uni, and I can kind of, if I'm feeling rubbish, I can kind of take a day off and think, well, I can have the day to myself rather than constantly being asked questions. I did find a lot at school it was hard to have a bad day, and people weren't really appreciative of the fact that we were in a really high pressured school. And a lot of people did have bad days. I think we were kind of told that having a bad day wasn't really a normal thing. So I would say, yeah, that from that point of view, university has been really helpful to give me my breathing space, and I've learnt a lot more about living and life at uni. We were very sheltered at school. I'm really glad I made the decision to go to uni and not take a year out, because I was originally supposed to because of my mental health problems, but I decided I'd just face the challenge head on. So another question I had, which relates to uni life, is do you find going out and drinking anxiety inducing or stressful because of it being unhealthy? Yeah, I've had situations at uni where I've been really, really anxious to go out. I've been really, really anxious to drink. I do often go for a low calorie drink if I can, because I have to eat a certain amount of calories on my diet plan, so I never want to be substituting food for a drink. So I'll try and go for something lower calorie so that I can have it on top of what I'm eating. But yeah, that is definitely a source of anxiety for me. It's something I'm still practicing, something I'm still trying to be a bit more relaxed over, but it's definitely difficult. I mean, I had a couple of incidents at the beginning of the year when I was still struggling with my eating and I'd kind of gone out on an empty stomach. I'd only had a couple of drinks, but I was really, really drunk. It's so bad for your body, I can't even explain it. Please, 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 if you're going to university and you're struggling with this, please bring it up with someone, talk to people about it, ask friends for advice, ask people for help. It's really important that you don't drink on an empty stomach because it can be really dangerous. So the next questions I had were quite similar, so I'm going to kind of group answer them. The first one was, what is your understanding of why some people suffer with anxiety? I mean, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't really know. I know for me, not addressing my emotions and trying to shove stuff down and keep it internal and not vocalising how I was feeling, that definitely contributed to my anxiety and my depression. It's so important to feel. I know that sounds crazy, but if you're feeling sad, cry. If you're feeling angry, shout. It's really basic, but stuff can get on top of you without you knowing, and subconsciously it can become really, really difficult to explain your emotions after you've kept them inside for so long. And for me, it's definitely become a force of habit, and it's so much harder. I'm learning now, obviously, through having therapy and practicing, but it meant at the beginning of my therapy, it was so hard for me to open up. It was so difficult for me to talk to people, and getting over that barrier is one of the hardest things. The next questions were, what advice most helped your recovery, and what have you found the most helpful for your recovery? Having the right people around me. I've learned since leaving school who are my real friends, who stayed in contact with me. You learn who your friends are. I kept the right people around me. I kept the people I needed kind of around me, and the people who made me happy. My family members are super supportive. Trying to talk to my family a bit, that's one of the things I find the hardest, because my family is my family and I don't want them to judge me. That's one of the hardest things I find, talking to my family. It's easier for me to talk to friends because I can kind of disassociate and they're kind of outside my home. So talking to my family has been hard, but having them support me has been absolutely amazing. Definitely doing stuff I'm passionate about, sports, art. I try to keep stuff in my daily routine that's gonna keep me positive and keep me happy and keep me passionate. And you need to have that in your day-to-day life. You need to have that enjoyment. And also having the right therapists. I now have the right therapist and she's amazing and I love her. And my nutritionist is fabulous, gives me fabulous advice. The people, my care team at the hospital is amazing. And I mean, obviously I've built really strong bonds with them and a lot of the nurses, because I was in there for recovery. Having a team of supporters is massively helpful. So the next set of questions is about how to support friends with mental health issues. I had a lot of questions about this. I had a particular scenario sent to me that was along the lines of, what's the best thing to do when you think or know your friend is struggling with mental health issues or an eating disorder? How do you bring it up without feeling like you're going to make them upset or you're going to make them worse, or the issue of not wanting to get too involved but still making sure they get help? I had a lot of issues and a lot of scenarios that people were really concerned about. All I can say is, for someone with an eating disorder, it is very important that you get them help. Eating disorders can spiral very, very quickly, and they're very, very dangerous. So personally, if I had a friend, and I have had this situation a couple of times and I've noticed things, sometimes I know it's so difficult, but you have to separate your friendship and you have to objectively look at what this person is going through and their physical health. Sometimes you have to upset people to get them the help that they need. I know when I first had my eating disorder, I was angry at people for bringing it up. I didn't like people talking about it. I knew people were talking about me. I found it really hard, but I can appreciate how much people were fighting for me and how much my friends recognised that I was really ill and I needed help. It's so important. I think personally, if someone had told me something, if I thought they were in danger, I hadn't passed that information on to someone I trusted or someone else who could do something about it, like a professional or an adult. If I hadn't done that and something had happened to them, I would feel absolutely dreadful. So yeah, all I can say is try and be objective. But I understand it is really hard if you yourself haven't gone through any mental health problems or an eating disorder. It's very hard to know how to cope with other people. I completely get that. But sometimes they just need someone. They might not show it, but a lot of people are desperate for help but just don't know how to ask for it. So don't feel like you have to have complete responsibility of people, because you can get yourself in trouble and start to have your own problems yourself. So encourage them to seek professional help or talk to their parents or open up a little bit more so that you can explore it and try and get them help. Another question I had was, is your exercise and gymming because of your eating disorder, or is it just for fun? I was very into sports, and I did really enjoy them. I wasn't always the best, but I did enjoy it. I enjoyed going out, getting fresh air, playing around with my friends. I kind of turned it into a bad thing. I did use it a lot, and then when I developed my eating disorder, I over-exercised massively. Was running too far for too long, doing too much in the day, not eating enough. So yeah, definitely my eating disorder fueled my unhealthy relationship with exercise. And still to this day, it's something I struggle with. I find it really hard to manage, so that's still something I'm trying to work out. I would say I definitely love exercise, and it is a really important part of my daily routine, but I do have to be careful. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope this has helped someone, anyone. But yeah, thank you so much for all your questions. Please let me know if anything's unclear. If people want to see more of these kind of videos or have more questions, please let me know. This is all very new to me, all a little bit scary. But yeah, I've tried to share as much as I could, and I'm trying to be as open and honest as I can because I think it's so important. It's such an important topic. So yeah, my messages are always open if people have any questions or want to ask me stuff or need kind of someone to lean on. Please contact me. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.